Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to True Crime, the podcast that helps you find new, emerging, and undiscovered true crime podcasts. I'm Greg, the host and curator of True Crime. If you like today's episode, make sure to check out the episode description for links to subscribe. Today's episode is from A Nefarious Nightmare. A Nefarious Nightmare is a true crime that focuses on lesser-known crimes, awareness on sexual assault, and justice for those deemed especially vulnerable. This is part 2 of the Minding the Beehive series. For part 1, check the previous episode. All right, let's get this show started.
Begin.
You're listening to a special multi-part series by A Nefarious Nightmare called Minding the Beehive. Before we begin, we felt it our responsibility to issue a stern warning. This series serves as a deep dive exploration into the attacks committed by a serial rapist. This will include detailed first-hand accounts from the victims of this assailant. While this series is meant to raise awareness and inspire vigilance, we do understand that such content may trigger painful emotions for certain individuals. Listener discretion is therefore very strongly advised.
Honestly, when I saw him in person, even his eyes are black, and there just felt like there was something pushing me away. I can't even describe him in words. And when I want to, I feel shaky and freaked out. I only had one night with him, but I am never going to be the same again. And I thought he was going to kill me. And he did do things, because I like true crime as well. And he did do things that serial killers do. And he has, a collection of his victims. And I am in there. It's disturbing to think about. I really think that pride will be his downfall because he does use every variation of his name, and he really gets so many tattoos. So I've said in my post before that we are grateful because, he'll be easy to spot in a police lineup. He has his face tattooed even, you can't hide that. He wants to stand out so badly. And it's also just not smart for him. So, he really wants to be famous. He claims he's in Blessed to Fall, which he never was. He claims he knows celebrities. And, we just been saying, it's funny because he's going to be famous like he wants. It's just not going to be the way he wanted. I know that he has been grooming and preparing underage girls since 2009. And I know that he's been physically attacking and raping women since 2012.
Last week, we opened up with a hypothetical, briefly touched up on narcissistic personality disorder, listened to Holly's story, and unfortunately, the story continues on as the offender has done more than sexually assault his victims.
He has also swindled money from them. This week, we will dive a little more into narcissism, give you a timeline of the victims, and listen to another victim's story. Join us as we dive into this monster. I'm Amanda Cronin.
And I'm Courtney Fenner, and A Nefarious Nightmare presents Minding the Beehive, Surviving a Serial Rapist, Part 2.
Narcissism. It's a term we see often today, especially in the world of social media. Some even argue that narcissism is thrown around as a cushion word, as though every shitty person they encounter is a narcissist. It's important to remember just because someone is a shitty person doesn't automatically make them a narc, and just because someone is a narcissist doesn't automatically equate them to a shitty person.
But what is it about narcissism that puts people off so much? When we're affected by behaviors of another person or even affected by a physical illness, we tend to lean on Dr. Google for all of the answers. Oftentimes, what you see isn't the entire story or even the picture. It's been proven that every human being on this earth carries traits of narcissism, but that doesn't automatically make them a narcissist. If it did, that would be like saying that every shade of violet is violet, or every writing utensil is a Bic pen. That's not exactly true. And now that you see how silly that is, let's explore narcissism a little bit more.
Every human has an innate need for love, affection, and attention. And every human has the capability for grandiose behavior or even a stellar imagination. Many people will have these things in check and play off these items as normal day-to-day occurrences, but also involve true empathy, true love, true emotion, and humbleness. But some don't involve those things at all. Those are narcissists. And if they do involve those things, it's not that they feel them, it's that they're perceive what others feel and mimic that. There's always a self-serving need with it, and it's never about others.
Narcissists, true narcissists, have the intense need and desire to be in total control of other people. They seek out those they think are vulnerable, usually people who are codependent. But what a lot of people don't know, however, is that narcissists are codependent also. The difference between a narcissist and their victim is that the narcissist feels that they don't have to play by any moral code or specific rule unless it's self-serving. For example, a narcissist may do a good thing such as donate to a charity, but it won't be for the charity, it will be for the clout. A narc will be the type of person who donates $500 to a cancer patient's GoFundMe and then shares that with the world, with everyone, as though they were saying, hey, I did this really big, grandiose, and awesome gesture. I'm a good person. Adore me, love me, worship me, and later, do my bidding. They're really fine-tuned in conceited and self-centered behaviors, such as, quote, all of the girls want me, or I can steal your man. I will steal your job. I am better at this than everyone else. End quote. But deep down, this is an intense insecurity and a deep need for admiration to validate their own behavior.
Being involved with a narcissist can often be a whirlwind of confusion, pain, stress, emotional exhaustion, and often victims are trapped. It can be a vicious cycle and also often leads to abuse or, worst case scenario, sexual assault or even murder. And notice that Courtney said grandiose. That's one trait in a narcissist. Another thing a narcissist will do is seek out their victims by way of extreme affection and love bombing. Later on, when their victim is eased into a comfortable place of perceived love and trust, the narcissist will pick up on that and start the abuse. It could be in a physical form, psychological form, emotional form, or all three. When the victim gets the strength to stand up against the narcissist, such as calling them out on their behavior, a narcissist will often gaslight their victim. A good example of this is person A. The narcissist will say, "You're gaining weight. I don't like that. When you are heavy, you are ugly. I think you're embarrassing. I need you to look good on my arm. Lose weight or lose me." Person B, the victim, might say, quote, "That was really hurtful. I can't believe you said that. I thought you loved me." And person A would say, "I do love you. I never said any of that, but it's true. You need to lose weight because it doesn't look good for me. You're crazy. You're imagining it." That is classic gaslighting. And also coupled with another trait, refusal to take accountability. Really quick, here is a clip of the phone call between Adrian and his victim, because it is a true example of what we are talking about.
People's hearts get broken every single day in this world.
Don't forget that part.
What?
That you put
What
your
part?
hands on her.
We put hands on each other. Just because I'm a guy doesn't mean shit. Look at Johnny Depp.
So,
That's
you
a
still
prime
said you
example.
put your hands on her.
We put his hands on each other. No. Now I'm getting
No?
a call from Christine Graves from Joliet, Illinois. I don't know who that is.
No idea.
Yep. Look at Johnny Depp. Prime example. Just because I have a penis doesn't mean I can't be abused. And I have been abused. She's abusing me now. She's an abuser.
Then why are all
Because you have a vagina doesn't make it any different. It does not make it any different.
How many other people are accusing you of this?
How many what?
How many other people are accusing you of this? Because you told me there were multiple
I have
people.
no
now.
idea.
You have
I don't
no
really
idea?
care. If it was that
Why are
serious, I'd
all-
already be in handcuffs and in prison. So people just like to follow, and I like to be sheep. Shit goes on every day. It's that stupid social media Me Too movement. I'm not the only one. I think I dicked her down so good she's obsessed. And she even told me that. She goes, if you come in me, like, I'm going to fucking go crazy. Like, I will lose my mind, and I'm going to be completely obsessed, and I hope you're ready for the crazy that comes out of me once you come inside me. And I should have never done it. I should have never done it. Because I dicked her down so good, now she's obsessed, dude. She doesn't want anybody else to have me. She doesn't want anybody else. It's her life goal to never let anybody suck my dick or fuck anybody ever again. That's her goal. Because she's obsessed. Why?
What?
told you
Number
everything.
one. So you were cheating on your ex-girlfriend?
I don't know if I
Other
was
women?
cheating because we were
know?
talking long distance.
Yeah, but you told me
They are
that you were so
1,000
in love
miles
and that
away.
you guys talked about marriage and that you were so excited to spend the rest of your life with her.
Because it was a
If you were
fantasy.
excited about that, then why would you still be messaging people on your Facebook app?
Because it was a fantasy. We were both living in a fantasy that didn't come up to the expectation that we both thought that we wanted.
But
And I handled it better.
You confided in me and said that you were very much in love and that this hurt you very, very much. So now it was just a fantasy and it wasn't real feelings and it was okay for you to just
I don't know what it was.
messaging other people?
I think that we were both feeling really alone, and we both didn't want to be alone, so we just jumped the gun. This
That's
person wanted
exactly
to
what
print
I'm
out
trying to
marriage
explain.
papers in their state, so they wanted to print
And
out
that's
marriage
another
papers
issue.
in their state and marry me, and I got love bombed. They're
You
saying I
got
love
love
bombed them, but no. I mean, I got screenshots. I know what they said. It's fine. They're still obsessed with me. It's just what it is. They're obsessed.
That's what it is.
It's exactly what it is. Why are you posting pictures of my T-shirt saying I look better than anyways?
Why are you
Not
more
even
concerned
48
about her
hours ago.
posting pictures of herself when she's accusing you?
That phone call right there will forever give me the creeps. I've been telling a few of the victims that he reminds me of a modern day Tony Costa. A narcissist sinks their teeth into the victim winds up under their complete control. A narcissist can find vulnerable people very easy. It's terrifying how quick they can pick up on it. So my argument is that while it's believed that narcs lack empathy, I feel that it is somewhat impossible because you'd have to have some kind of empathy to be able to seek out that vulnerability that easy. And the truth is, narcissism, as well as histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and other disorders are way too complex to fit into the series, but we did give you a general idea. All three of those disorders are commonly confused with one another, but they're all different. It's important to know that before slapping a label on someone. So this series, we're talking about a true narcissist, Adrian Vildesea. If you see these signs and also other similar behaviors to that of what he has done, please seek help. And if you can safely get out of that situation, do so. We will attach any and every resource we can into our show notes. But if you or a loved one is going through this, we urge you to please seek help, speak up, and rely on trustworthy resources, including law enforcement if necessary.
Today we will be listening to Grace's story. Before we continue, take note of how she and Holly both have responded the same and also differently to these situations. Every victim will cope and grieve in different ways, but it doesn't make their trauma or grief any more or less extreme. All victims, and I repeat, all victims are victims.
My name is Parthena Grace. I'm 29 years old. I was 27 years old when the event took place. This took place in Tucson, Arizona. So Adrian was on my Facebook for years. We never talked until I believe it was 1 year ago, so that would be 2021. And he just commented on one of my memes I posted, and he started talking to me. And he was just very forward in his intentions. He was very love bombing. He asked for my phone number right away. And like within the first hour, he was calling me pet names, trying to plan a relationship and asking to see me the next day, which all made me uncomfortable. But, I just wasn't really sure how to feel about him because he had posted a bunch of stuff on his page about, how much he loved cats and art and gardening. And I was like, well, maybe he's genuine. Maybe he likes, this sappy romantic stuff or is a hopeless romantic or something, but I was, obviously wrong about that. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I wasn't really sure what to think of it. I was kind of going through some other things at the time, and, I was like, well, maybe I can meet him, why not? He's a little weird, and he gave me weird vibes, and I was like, well, maybe I'm just being judgmental. I was trusting my gut, which I should have done. So my first impression, actually, I had him on my Facebook for years, probably since 2015, maybe. I remember he was in serious relationships and, he honestly seemed like Mr. Cool Guy and he almost seemed like a celebrity to me. He had a lot of female followers, lots of people commenting on his stuff. And, I just thought he seemed really cool. And, he just almost seemed like a local celebrity, but I didn't really know anything about him. But he projected this image of importance. And I felt like everyone else kind of followed along with it. And I figured it was because, of he had so many tattoos and, he was like, he visually stood out, and I guess he was in music or whatever. I mean, he obviously wasn't, but that's what he said he was. And I feel like the only reason why he tried to talk to me when he did was because that's when I also got a large following, because before I wasn't that active and, I wasn't online very much, but then out of nowhere, I got like tons of followers and friends on there. And so I feel like that was something that also attracted him too, was just that I seemed popular and from talking to him, I think so as well, because he kept idealizing our image together. Like he was like, oh, we're both so popular. Oh, we're both alternative. We're both attractive. And he kept trying to convince me like how good we would look together, which was weird. But I think that's also why I also kind of bought into it. I was like, okay, well, maybe he's right. And then he also lived like 5 minutes away from me. So that was a selling point, I guess, because I was like, well, it's convenient. And he kept reminding me of that too, that, we were so close and it was destined to be, and, all of these things. When I met him in person, it was very different. He didn't look anything like his picture. Like he looked very unkempt and he honestly looked like he had like just woken up or something, just very disheveled looking, messy hair. Like, and in his photos, he has, like all these nice outfits and, they're very filtered, and he just looked like the tattoo presence online gave you the idea that he was like attractive and like, successful, but the tattoo presence in person kind of made you feel like he was like a criminal or something, which may sound a little judgmental, but I was like, oh, this guy's kind of weird. And like, I don't know, like just his mannerisms and the way he was, it was just off, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. But it wasn't charismatic, or it wasn't like poetic or intelligent like what he displayed online. It was very different. And I feel like the online persona was just, scripted. Obviously behind a screen, you have more time to think about what you post and what you say. And, in person, it's you're there in the moment. You don't have time to act as much, So it was definitely different. It was like two different people for sure. He definitely has that, lots of delusions of grandeur, not just from my experience, but from what the other women have said. And it's almost off-putting just how inaccurate his image of himself is. And when we put out there what he had done to us, he was telling other women that he was becoming famous online from us, and that we hated him because he was attractive and popular, and that's why we were picking on him. So it was really bizarre, because obviously that lie is not even believable, but it's just like, why would you even say that? He definitely gives me the creepy crawlies. Like, even seeing pictures of him make me physically ill. There was a video he had sent someone just recording his apartment, and even watching where he lives made me feel sick, just because it's like his energy is just soaked in that place. So, red flags that I noticed when I talked to him the night before. It's kind of funny because I didn't remember, but I was rereading some texts I sent to my best friend, because we tell our best friends everything. And just he was being overly clingy. He was using pet names in every sentence. He was planning a relationship. The conversation was super one-sided. I didn't really feel like I was being listened to. I just kind of felt like he was trying to convince me of certain things, like, we'd be perfect together. And, another thing was, he was trying to say that he wanted to spend like every day with me. And, we should spend all this time together because we live so close, and we should do this, and we should watch horror movies, and we should cook. And, all of the planning for relationship and relationship kind of stuff was a red flag for me, because, I've been in serious relationships and I've been married, and, that stuff takes time. And he wanted to see me the next day, and it was like, I think it was a Wednesday, and I work Monday to Friday. So I kind of wanted to wait until the weekend, but I was really just feeling depressed and down, not really in my best mental state. And I had some bad luck with dating guys and stuff. So that was part of it, was just, there had been another guy that I was interested in, and he ended up ghosting me, and I was bummed about that. So I was like, maybe a distraction would be nice. And, I don't normally go out on a weeknight and everything. And, I undersold myself, because usually I would make a guy like wait to see me or whatever. But it's just the fact that I think that he does specifically prey on certain mental states, and he can tell when people are feeling upset, because that's what predators do. And that's why, he also preys on underage girls, and he also preys on older women, because we were figuring out, well, the older women, they have their kids moved out, and, they might be feeling lonely again. He sniffs out different types of vulnerabilities that he can find, and he preys on those. And, what's also disturbing is, with each person, he conditions who he is. He told me that he had cats. He didn't have any cats. And, I know that he's said that with other women as well, and he'll take pictures of other women's cats or cats from the internet and claim that they're his, which is disturbing. And I remember I didn't even want to see him the next day, but I was just like, I'm an introvert, so I force myself to do things I don't want to do all the time. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the party, or I'm going to go out, even though I don't want to, because when I get there, I usually have fun. So that was kind of my logic as well. I was like, you know what? Just take a chance, be brave, have fun. And it was one of the worst chances I ever took. But in a sense, I don't regret it, because I can be a part of this, and I can help others that have been a part of this. But, it still does suck at the same time. Now It's hard to say because, I haven't talked to him or seen him since that night he attacked me. And he projects what he wants the world to see. He's posts stories and things talking about how well he's doing in life. And he tries to sell this to us because he knows that we're watching his Instagram and, seeing if he's talking to girls and things to try to protect them. But we can all see through it, though. We honestly think that the more he posts this fake confidence, the worse he's probably doing. Because, it's just for show. I think what makes me happy is I think we've thrown him off his game because he's usually very practiced in what he does. And a lot of the women, myself included, thought that he might have been genuine. But the more recent women that have reached out to us have told us that they could tell he was a creep and predatory right away. So the women that have recently contacted us have told us that, they could tell he was creepy right away and predatory right away. And, they weren't surprised at all by our posts. And they were like, they had the same feelings we did. So I feel like he's showing his creepiness at an earlier stage because he's alarmed and doesn't really know how to act. And yeah, he is definitely getting sloppy. And, he also knows that we have told so many women what he's doing. And we've told women, hey, if you want to follow him or talk to him or give us information, you totally can. So he knows that there are women that are possibly on his page or on these dating apps that are giving us information. And I think that's made him wary too, because he doesn't know who's talking to us or what they're saying. And, so I'm really glad that that he's feeling a little scared right now because, we all felt scared by him. The stories, they get worse and worse, and we had one the other day where it was super disturbing. A lot of these stories are, and I wouldn't be surprised if he killed someone. He gets off the pain specifically. There was one woman where he threw her out because she wasn't reacting to him attacking her. Honestly, when I saw him in person, even his eyes are black and there just felt like there was something pushing me away. I can't even describe him in words. And when I want to, I feel shaky and freaked out. I only had one night with him, but I am never going to be the same again. And I thought he was going to kill me. And he did do things, because I like true crime as well. And he did do things that serial killers do. And he has, a collection of his victims. And I am in there. It's disturbing to think about. His name is Adrian Stephen Vildusea. He also goes by Adrian Esteban, Artie Steph, Adrian Gray, with the minors specifically, Adrian Stephen, Adrian V. What's interesting is you would think that he would change his names to something completely different to be smart. But I think he is so obsessed with himself that he just uses a bunch of variations of his name, which is great for us. I really think that pride will be his downfall because he does use every variation of his name and he really gets so many tattoos. So I've said in my post before that we are grateful because, he'll be easy to spot in a police lineup. He has his face tattooed even, you can't hide that. He wants to stand out so badly. And it's also just not smart for him. So, he really wants to be famous. He claims he's in Blessed to Fall, which he never was. He claims he knows celebrities. And, we've just been saying, it's funny because he's going to be famous like he wants. It's just not going to be the way he wanted. I know that he has been grooming and preparing underage girls since 2009. And I know that he's been physically attacking and raping women since 2012. So physical actions, 10 years. And that's just what we knew of. Yes, because with the grooming of the underage girls, that has been since 2009, which I believe is the year he graduated high school or around there. He was born in 1989. So I guess that would be like age 20. So yeah, shortly after he graduated high school. So I went to Adrian's condo to hang out with him. And, the plan was that I was going to bring him alcohol because he said it was to soothe his nervousness. I told him I don't drink. And, I didn't really want to buy him alcohol because I don't like being around that personally. But I try to be understanding because he said, I just get nervous sometimes and it would just really help because I'm shy around new people. And so I was like, okay. So I asked him what he wanted. I picked it up from the store. Then, I mentioned I was getting dinner before heading over. And he started asking me to bring food and stuff. And at that point, I was getting kind of annoyed because I was like, I'm already bringing you alcohol and now you're just annoying me. He was leaving very bad impressions already. So I went to his apartment. I didn't buy him any food. And he was waiting outside. And, he didn't look like his pictures or anything. And he had a very off vibe. And it was very weird and really not like anything I experienced before when meeting a person. And I wasn't really sure how to feel about it, but it was off-putting and definitely different. And I remember we went outside and he wanted to smoke on his patio and we started talking. And he told me that he, worked at a rehab center and he struggled with drug addiction and alcohol addiction in the past, but he was over that. And he was talking about how that was like a spiritual, liberating experience. He was glad he could help people. But at the same time, he seemed kind of to be saying it in a pompous manner. It didn't really seem like it was out of the goodness of his heart, but it just kind of seemed like he wanted to show off or brag. And then probably about 20 minutes into talking is when he got really weird. He told me that he was part of some like nudist sex colony in Oregon and that they had sex all day and did drugs all day. And he was in that for a long time. And it was like a very spiritual experience. And I had no words. I sat there and I had a look on my face because I'm a very expressive person and I don't even mean to be sometimes. But the look on my face, he really didn't like. And he was like, "Oh, are you judging me?" And he got really uppity and defensive. And I was just like, I don't know what to say about that. And he got really defensive for a while. Things got kind of weird. And then he calmed down after a little bit. But after that, I was not sure what to think. But I was like, this is weird. This guy is very weird. So, after a while we went inside. He wanted to watch some music videos. He definitely expressed interest in music. He asked this was another thing was he got mad a lot and over really stupid things. Like he brought up, he asked me, what do you think are the top 3 influential bands of all time? So I said, Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles. And I actually don't personally really like any of those bands, but I'm just saying based off of what everyone else says. And he got yes, exactly. And he got very upset that I listed the Beatles last, and he got really defensive over that. And, and then I, told him I didn't even like the Beatles. And then he got very angry about that. And then he asked another question, which was, what's your favorite, who is your emo crush? And he was saying that girls tell him that he looks like Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon all the time. And I told him if I had to pick, it would be Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco. And after I said that, he got really angry. His eyes just like lit up with fury, and he was like shaking, and he started like yelling at me, and he was like, how dare you, and do you even know what he is? And he just started going off, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I'm going to show you this video and you're going to learn. And I was like, okay. And so he looked up this video on YouTube, and I guess Brendan Urie made a joke about rape, which was really messed up and I didn't agree with, but I didn't know. And, the video was like 10 years old. And I was just like, I mean, that was in poor taste, but, he was just really going off on him. And what's weird to me is he was really against rape, which is baffling to me now. And then he also told me about Brendan that it's the people that preach the most that are the most evil, which was also ironic because he basically is talking about himself. And I don't know if he doesn't like Brendan, because he reminds him of himself or what it is. But, I've spoken with the other girls, and they've confirmed that he is obsessed with hating Brendan Urie. And we're not sure why, but it's definitely strange the amount of hatred he has for him. We were kissing, things were getting a little steamy, and, we went to the bedroom and he put me on the bed and he was trying to take my pants off. And I told him no. I said, no, I don't want to have sex. And he kept going. And I said, I'm on my period and I'm wearing really ugly underwear. I literally said that. And what's weird is after that, he stopped. Being on my period stopped him. And so after that, he stopped. And I honestly think that saved me, which is so weird. But he did proceed to do other things that I didn't want to do. At that point, I was shaken up. I was uncomfortable. And he kept trying to be sexual with me. And he took his penis out of his pants. And he kept telling me to touch it and to stroke it. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to. And he kept trying to manipulate me and soothe me and saying, it's okay, it's fine. And he took my hand and he put it on it. And I was looking away in disgust and I was shaking and I just didn't know what to do. I was kind of frozen and not just processing what was happening to me in that moment. And after a while, he stopped because, I can't imagine that would have been satisfying because I wasn't doing anything. He was doing it for me. And, at that point, I started crying and shaking and saying, I want to leave. Can I go, please? And he was like, no, I'm not done with you yet. He took out this hoodie he had. It looked like I think it was like his high school hoodie. It had like some school thing on it. And he said, put this on. And, I was kind of freaked out and I was like, okay. So I put it on. And then he took his cologne out. He started spraying me with it. He sprayed it in my eyes. He was like marking me or something. And I started crying even more. And I just kept saying, please, can I go? Like, I just want to go home. And he took his phone out and he started taking pictures of me and video. And he was saying, smile in this weird baby voice while I was, begging to leave. And he wouldn't stop. And me begging to be let go and crying, I think, was enjoyable for him to watch. And, it was disturbing. And I think that was one of the things that disturbed me the most, was him just enjoying taking pictures and videos of me being scared like that. And afterwards, I felt like I really couldn't move. And he took me and he put me on the bed and restrained me. And he took his penis out again. And he had me like kind of upside down where my head was facing the edge of the bed. And he put his penis on my forehead and was rubbing it on my forehead. And it was really strange. Like, he's very weird. I think what makes me the most creeped out was just how creepy and weird his actions were. Not even just the fact that they were sexual, but just that they were so bizarre. And yeah, he was just rubbing his penis on my forehead and like laughing. And he started spitting on me and spitting in my mouth and just, being really creepy. And I remembered I closed my eyes and I was just pretending I was somewhere else. It was very degrading and humiliating and disgusting. And he wrapped me up in a blanket and he put me on his couch, and he wrapped me up so tightly that, I couldn't move, and I was trying to. And for, I think it was an hour, because he had a clock in there, he mentally tortured me. And he grabbed me and spit on me, and he wouldn't let me leave. He said, "You have two choices. You can get in your car and take me home with you, or you're going to sleep in my bed tonight and you're going to stay here." And I said, no, I'm not doing either of those things. And he started complaining about how he's tired of sleeping alone and he needs someone. And, I told him, I don't want you in my home. I'm going to be working tomorrow. And he said, "Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean your house while you work, and I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to live with you." And it was disturbing because he was so obsessed with the domestication thing and just this weird, like, housewife husband thing. And I have always been told since I was a kid that if you get into a car against your will with a man, that he will kill you. And I felt that way when he was telling me to get in my car. And that's why I kept saying no. And I didn't want to bring him home because, I have my cats and I didn't want him to hurt them. And I didn't want him to be there while I was going to be at work. And, he was smoking a cigarette and he kept motioning like he was going to burn me with it. He was groping me under the blanket. He degraded me. He said, that I wasn't that attractive. And he said, I have trust issues. And, if I don't let him in, I'm going to be alone until, I'm old and I'm going to die alone. And I'm pathetic, that I'm always going to be alone, that, I'm going to shut a good man like him out, and that I deserve to die alone for making him suffer and for making him feel like, because he was like, "Oh, I'm going to clean your house and do these things." And he also kept saying that he wanted me to take him to the drive-thru and buy McChickens because I didn't bring him food. And he brought up the McChickens thing multiple times. And as weird and strange as it is, McChicken was a trigger word for me for such a long time and he kept reminding me too, "You only live 5 minutes away. You only live 5 minutes away. You only live 5 minutes away." And that was burned into my brain. And I still hear him saying that sometimes because I know I only live 5 minutes away, and he wanted me to know that too. And he knew my cross streets because he asked me, and I told him when we were texting, when things were normal. And it terrified me because I felt like he would be the type of person to figure out where I lived. And it was scary. He did this to me for like an hour and just kept trying to break me down, trying to get me to get in my car or to comply to stay there with him. And I just kept saying no and, let him verbally abuse me and mentally abuse me and just hope that it'd be over. And after a while, he got sick of me, I guess, because he let me go. And I thought it was the weirdest thing. I was like, I didn't think that would happen. Yeah, yes, exactly. And, I consider myself lucky because the other women I've spoken with, he didn't let them go. And he trapped them for hours or days. He took away their cell phones and their car keys. And I don't know why he let me go, but I am grateful for it. It's 41 physical victims. And then there's all the victims that he swindled out of money. There's the ones that, he sent unsolicited pictures to. There's the ones that he stalked. There's so many others that he's harassed or creeped on online or tried to lure. And just so many of us. You don't know how many people you could be saving. We already saved some women from talking to him, encountering him. Like he's just everywhere lurking and, so that feels good that we can help save a few people at least. And, it's hard sometimes because we know he's still out there hurting people. And we've talked to some girls who have been hurt by him since we even started posting things. So, which is sickening because it's like we're putting a spotlight on him and he's still attacking people because he just really thinks he's above reproach. I had to take a bit of a mental health break because it was so much work and it was hard to be involved in every day. But I think it was a good choice because, like you said, he thinks he's under the radar. And I think being quiet, we just went quiet all of a sudden and we didn't tell anyone. We didn't explain why. And so I think he's really wondering, are they done? Or what are they doing? Because if I was him, I would be wondering those things. Yeah, because we never offered an explanation. We just kind of stopped. And, but he's going to be all over the place soon again. So the way this has affected me, I view people online completely differently. I don't believe really anything I see online anymore. Not pictures, statuses, nothing. Because his whole identity online is a lie. And I think how many people could be lying about that? Probably a lot. And, I know most people do use filters and editing apps on their photos. And I remind myself that too sometimes, when you see someone who you think, oh, she's so much prettier than me. And, I'm like, you don't even know if that's real. Not to sound rude or anything, but you don't, and that's how it is with the media too. And it's just like everything, or not everything, but a lot of things aren't real. And I'm not going to make a judgment on someone based off of what I see on their page ever again, because he had me believing that he looked a certain way, that he was a certain way. And I am most wary now of people who project the image of perfection online too. The people that post poetry or talk about how they would treat a woman, men specifically, because, I'm a straight woman. So those are the ones I got to watch out for, So that's definitely changed me and I'm glad for it. And, I'm like, if I want to figure out how someone is, I'm going to talk to them. And another thing is, I met him a day after talking to him and I'm never going to do that again either. And I'm never going to go to a guy's house ever again. Like on the first date, absolutely not. And a lot of these women that I've spoken to, the ones that were cautious were because they encountered him or someone else. The ones that were more careful with him, that were almost his victims, they were like, well, I met someone else like him. And it's kind of sad, but a lot of us are more careful because we have experiences like this. And that's what makes it hard, is because, I wish I had those precautions before. And I don't blame myself, but I hope that by talking about these things, and that it'll make people think about who they're talking to. Because after having this experience, it makes me think about that all the time. And it's never going to go back to the way it was. And I think that's for the best. I think it's good to second guess and not take everything at face value, because, we got to protect ourselves. And, the thing that stands out to me the most would be, you want to look out for the person who projects an image of himself the most. I guess the way to word it would be, look out for a guy who constantly talks about women in a positive way. Yeah, because he's probably not all about that. And that is one of the biggest takeaways I've gotten from this. And, being on social media, I've seen a few guys like that. And actually, there was a guy on my Facebook who posted similar statuses to him. And one of my friends did come and tell me that man is a rapist. And now when I see guys that post those kinds of statuses, that's the thought I have in my head. If you treat women in a way that's correct or romantic, then why do you need to announce it all the time? So the bees came to me because I think it was the day after I had posted my post in Arizona. I got it viral in Tucson. And the following morning, one of the first things I saw on my Facebook timeline was a picture, and it said emotional support bee. And it was a woman with a beautiful yellow ball gown, and she was holding this big fuzzy bee. And the image just made me happy. And I thought it was beautiful. It was, this beautiful woman, and she's holding this bee, and, the emotional support. I just loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And so, I saved it and I posted it, and, I attached a message to it for all of the girls and the victims. And I said, this cheered me up today. And, I thank everyone for coming forward with their stories, because, I was overwhelmed because I was receiving so many messages from other women with similar stories. And we were getting so many comments. Like, I knew that my post would get a lot of shares and that there would be other victims, but I did not think it would be to the level that it was. And so seeing that little bee made me happy. And, I posted another thing a few days later, and it was unrelated. It didn't have anything to do with bees. And one of my Facebook friends commented a picture of a bee. And I was like, that's really neat. I was like, because I didn't say anything about bees, but it looks like this really resonated with people. And, I was thinking about it, and I was like, how empowering would it be to have a symbol for us? Because we're more than victims, we're more than survivors. And I feel like any good movement should have a symbol, because then, people can call that group something, or, whatever. And I thought about how symbolic bees are, that they are beautiful. They pollinate flowers. The world couldn't exist without them. But when you make bees angry, they will sting you. And exactly. So they are beautiful and they create, but they are also not to be messed with, and especially not in number. And bees can be flat out dangerous. Some people are allergic to bees. It's just amazing that there is a creature that is capable of making the world literally exist. Like, we could not exist without bees, but they could also be capable of, destruction and force. And it's the dual-sided thing. And I think it's also the dual side of healing and wanting revenge. We struggle with our anger, but we also have moments of peace, and we're very complex, just like bees are. And it's just, I just thought it was really nice. And I talked to Holly about it, and I talked with the woman from Washington. I'm keep your name private because respect, but I talked to them about it the night I was editing their screenshots for one of the posts I was going to do. And I told them why I felt this way. And they're both like, yes, let's do that. And, I think it's great too, because, this happened in February, but, shortly after springtime came out and, in March, and we're in April, and the more time's passing, and especially in the spring, we're healing and we're thriving and the bees are coming out. In the wintertime, the bees were just, working, but we weren't quite all out there, but we're pretty much out there now. And, with the upcoming documentary and things, it's bee season. I think the offenses that he committed are primarily in the Gothic and alt community. He definitely has a type, and that's definitely his favorite, but he will attack any kind of woman. And, we have women in our group who are, not Gothic or alt as well. And I think in his younger days as well, he attacked a lot of younger girls and underage. And I think one reason why he also attacks so many Goth and alt women is because he kind of appears that way too. He has all the tattoos. And so, women that have tattoos are attracted to that typically as well. But he will prey on anyone. And, but yeah, he definitely has a type, that's for sure. I hope for sexual assault and rape survivors and domestic abuse survivors that they know they're not alone, and that there is no shame in what happened to them. And that I hope that by sharing my story that they have the courage to possibly share their own. And that I also want them to know that you never know what can happen when you speak. By speaking, we have all found each other. We all thought I was the only one he attacked, or maybe he attacked a few others. No, he's attacked 41 women and children that we know of. So after knowing that, I wonder how many rapists are out there that are actually serial rapists. There's a lot. I bet you anything there is, because a lot of people don't speak. And, but I also want people to take their time to speak, because I know how hard it is. I've taken my time to speak, but know that there is a lot of freedom after you do it. And it hurts, but it also feels freeing and empowering. And, even if you just tell one person, that can help with a lot of healing and closure. And, there was one girl that was attacked by him, who I was the first person she ever told. I was really glad that she could talk to me about it. And what I also hope for this is that, we bring awareness to him and what he's done, so we can help prevent him from doing that to more people. And I hope that it helps, other people to speak. And I hope that he's not the first one. I hope after this, we get another guy, because they need to be held accountable, and this needs to keep going. And that's one reason why we created the bees as well. Like, we've spoken with other women who have been attacked by other assailants, and we want them to know that we welcome them into our hive too. And we have women that are helping us that were attacked by other assailants, and they're helping because they know, even though it wasn't Adrian that attacked them, they know exactly what we're going through. And it's been amazing seeing their healing, because we're there to listen to them too. And we really have become a hive, and we really have become a family. And I also really hope that he will go to jail. And it is amazing to me that it takes so much to put this person in jail. After attacking people for 10 years, after grooming and preparing victims for 13 years, it's just, 41 victims. It's too much. And, we're just hoping that it goes somewhere. And, even if it doesn't, it still does. it still creates an impact. It still creates movement, and it still creates healing. And that's something that, can't be taken away from us. And it's just, like I said, we've really created a family with this, and, it's just amazing. It's just an experience like no other. And I know that there's other hives out there. Yeah, we need to work together, and I've helped spread awareness on some of these other creeps, and they've helped me and the other bees, and it really has been just a domino effect, and it's amazing. And I have more plans to help more people on my page, and even just speaking with them privately helps. I mean, it's just, these assailants think they have all the power, but we do. We have the voice, and we have the power to use it, and we need to do that.
Before we close out part 2, we will give you a timeline of the victims. It's shocking. This is only a portion of the timeline, as there's perceived to be over 52 victims to date and counting. So the first one, Jane Doe, May of 2012, out of Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 2, who was a minor, December 2012 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 3, December of 2012, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 4, who was a minor, 2012, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 5, April of 2013, Wilsonville, Oregon.
Jane Doe number 6, who was a minor, August of 2012, and again in October of 2014 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 7, who is a minor, 2015, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 8, who is a minor, 2016, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 9, 2016, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 10, August 2017, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 11, September of 2017, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 12, November of 2017 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe 13, who is a minor, 2017 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 14, 2017 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 15, May of 2018 in Boyertown, Pennsylvania.
Jane Doe number 16, in September of 2018 in Quakertown, Pennsylvania.
Jane Doe number 17, 2018, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 18, 2018, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 19, 2019, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 20, July 2019 in Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 21, November of 2019, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 22, July 2020, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 23, November of 2020, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe 24, December of 2020, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 25, December of 2020, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 26, January of 2021, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 27, January and February of 2021, Tucson, Buckeye, and Goodyear, Arizona. Multiple incidents.
Jane Doe number 28, May 2021, Tucson, Arizona.
Jane Doe number 29, October of 2021, Olympia, Washington.
Jane Doe number 30, October of 2021 in Spokane, Washington.
Jane Doe number 31, January of this year, 2022, Baltimore, Maryland.
Jane Doe number 32, the timeline is unknown, but it was in Tucson, Arizona.
And then Jane Doe number 33, also timeline unknown, Tucson, Arizona.
And Jane Doe number 34, also the timeline was unknown, in Tucson, Arizona.
And it's important to note that these are not all of the victims, but that's an incredibly big amount.
Yeah.
I have to say right here that it just makes me so angry, because not only is this person, overpowering these people and taking advantage of all of these women and these minors, but he has the potential for giving them unwanted pregnancies and STDs, and like this person is a fucking virus, and we need to stop.
It's honestly disgusting. It's just disgusting.
So, according to RAIN.org, sexual violence affects millions of Americans every 68 seconds. Younger people are at higher risk for sexual violence, with the peak ages being 12 through 34. 82% of minor victims are female. 90% of adult victims are also female. Women ages 18 through 24 who are college students are 3 times more likely than women in general to experience sexual violence. Females of the same age who are not enrolled in college are 4 times more likely.
With this, men and boys are also sexual assault victims, and transgender students are at a high risk for sexual violence. The likelihood that a person suffers suicidal or depressive thoughts increases after sexual violence. People who have been sexually assaulted are more likely to use drugs than the general public. Sexual violence also affects victims' relationships with their families, friends, coworkers. Victims are at risk of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections.
In the event that a minor is sexually assaulted or a victim of incest, the statistics show that 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys under the age of 18 experience sexual abuse or assault at the hands of an adult. Now, 82% of all victims under 18 are female. Females ages 16 through 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be the victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. Out of the sexual abuse cases reported to CPS in 2013, 47,000 men and 5,000 are women were the alleged perpetrators. In 88% of the sexual abuse claims that CPS substantiates or finds supporting evidence of, the perpetrator is male. In 9% of cases, they are female, and 3% are unknown. The likelihood that a minor is sexually assaulted by someone that they know is 93%, with 7% being a stranger. 34% are family members, and 59% are acquaintances of some kind, such as a volunteer at a child-serving organization who has engaged in grooming behaviors to gain the trust of an adolescent. And I want to add here that a lot of times this happens online.
Yes.
So if I had to give any word of advice to anybody, please be very careful when you post pictures of your children online.
If you or someone you know is the victim of sexual assault and in need of help, you may contact RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org, or call 800-656-4673. Also, mandatory reporting laws vary from state to state, but it is best to assume that all of them are. Oftentimes, you have no more than 24 hours after knowledge of the incident to report it, or you can be subject to as much as a misdemeanor offense and a $500 fine. With that, please seek your local sexual abuse reporting hotline if you suspect with evidence that a minor is being sexually abused. We will include any and all of these sources in our show notes.
Next week, we will listen to another victim account.
This completes part 2 of this multi-part series. We thank everyone for their participation in this, whether they are interviewed or reenacting or even just listening. Please be vigilant.
Thank you for listening to a Nefarious Nightmare podcast. Music used in this podcast was originally composed by Ghost Stories Incorporated and remixed by Ryan RCX Murphy. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or on any podcast platform that accepts ratings and reviews. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, don't be a dick and wear deodorant.
Thanks again for listening to True Crime by Indie Drop-In Network. If you would like to nominate a true crime podcast to be featured, just send me a tweet at Indie Drop-In. I'd also love to hear if one of our featured podcasts is now your favorite show. Indie Drop-In survives off ad revenue and listener donations. If you would like to contribute, please consider buying me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Indie Drop-In. If you look at the very bottom of the episode description, I put a link in there to make it really easy. Indie Drop-In has many other shows that you also might like. Just go to indiedropin.com. All right, see you next week.